And we're live. And I have no idea if we can hear each other.
Can you hear me?
Not that well, but I don't think it's coming from your fancy microphones. I think I can hear you from your itty bitty computer microphone.
Test 1, 2, 3.
There we go. That's better. Doug, can we just get a sound check from you while we've got these lovely
Check.
Yep, that's better. That's better.
It was I saw a photo of the airplanes blasting over the pagoda this week from the race last week, and it reminded me of my friend Russ, and he had one job 30 years ago, and that was to get me to the church on time. So we could have used him this morning to get me in front of the microphone on time.
Have any of you guys seen the new Top Gun?
I might do that this weekend. I've heard good things.
I cannot wait to see it. Amanda, have you seen it?
I have not.
Have you seen the first one?
I don't even know it's hard to say. I don't think I've watched it all the way through. I've ridden the ride at, they have one at Universal Studios, the Top Gun.
They might, I don't know.
I should not be getting these two confused. It's either there or Kings Island, but I've ridden a Top Gun ride.
I've been to the original Top Gun bar in San Diego.
I was with you.
Okay. There we go.
And we didn't sing whatever that song is.
You've lost that loving feeling.
You've lost that loving feeling.
I heard that's not in the new movie.
I can't imagine what their safety disclaimers that they have to read before hopping into one of those airplanes, but I'm sure it's a little longer than these. I'm going out on a limb here, and these are pretty long too. So.
It's probably simplified. You can die.
Right. Hey, that's a disclaimer for life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, shut those down. And
you have a choice to live too, Amanda.
Oh, I'm choosing. I always choose.
Yeah.
Life is worth living. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I called a friend this morning because he lives with a sense of whimsy, and he woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. He's 65 years old. He's never invested before and was reading a book on how to invest.
Okay.
No time like the present.
Cool. That's like Colonel Sanders.
It's somebody that's wanting to live.
That's right.
He said, I just felt like I could teach a lot of topics to my kids, but I don't know anything about investing. So I thought I would do that. I go, well, it's interesting you were doing that. And I called you this morning. I can summarize some stuff for you. So we had a good kickoff to my morning.
If you are interested in reading a book on investing, there's like no end to this topic. But what I'd be willing to do, if you're interested in reading a book on investing, I'd be willing to like cut out a few pages of several books that I've read to give you a summary of the best books of all times. And they would center around basically one basic idea, and that is get in line with the stock market. When the stock market's going up, you want to be in on it. When the stock market's going down, you don't want to be in on it. And every really good strategy out there has something called a whipsaw, where you buy in and it doesn't work. you get shaken out. But those are the ideas behind every really good book I've read on investing, is just get in line with the stock market.
Now, was this one of the books that you were talking about?
Oh, I forgot. That is my favorite book of all times. Yeah, that book written by a really insightful guy, Keith Tyner. Yeah, if you need a copy of Keith's book, and where Keith's book comes in handy, especially is when you're dealing with health issues, changes in life, or just preparing for those changes in your life.
It's about a decade or so old, so it's going to have some information that probably isn't so anymore, but we can talk you through that. The bulk of it is going to take you in the right direction. So there we go. What about, let's look at should we look at the market?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you a quick picture of the moving averages and the new highs and things of that. So we have we have more new stocks this week than last, but there's only 3 more new stocks, and the shorter term trends are trending upward. We have less than maybe 20% of the stocks that are below their 21-day moving average. So they've rallied a little bit, but we still have a good number below their 50 and 200-day moving average, which suggests there's still some, it's like a tug of war, I'd say, out there in the market on which way some of these stocks want to go. And then if we switch over to the NASDAQ, and if I were to draw a quick line from this high over to there, we started a downtrend about there, and then you can see this downtrend accelerated its velocity here in the last few weeks, and now it's trying to break out of that and move upward is what it's trying to do. Today it is down a bit, so it's not having continuation, but that's just one day. But this is why we started getting some folks back in that sector of the market in the last few days, and it looks like it's trying to have bottomed out here about a month ago.
Yeah, it's been interesting. There's a group that I like to read their publication, Bespoke is their name, and they send out a weekly update. And last week on Friday was interesting. Check this out. S&P was down about 12%, Dow Jones down about 8%. NASDAQ at that time last week down 22, S&P 600, which we look at from time to time, some smaller to medium-sized companies. Keith, pull that up here. This was down about 10 at its low last week. The British pound down 7, the euro down 6, the yen down 10. Cryptocurrency type stuff down 44. Treasury down 2, the 1 to 3 year treasury, 7 to 10 down 8, and the 20-year down 19. The only couple areas that I saw that were positive, well, Brazil looked pretty good, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But oil and natural gas. So Keith, if you would type in 0 on the keyboard, 0XOI.
This is not a recommendation. It's just a point out of when this thing broke through there, and then the trend line here, and it seems to be keeping really that channel seems to be what it's doing. But
this is one of the indexes that was showing some strength. This is just a common index, and as you see, oil has just been unbelievably strong. And natural gas is another one that's been unbelievably strong. That's 0XNG. Again, not a recommendation. It's just an index. But these look a lot better than the ones I just read. And Keith and I did some training this week where we went to listen to a few guest speakers that we've liked over the years and shared with you. And they seem to think that this trend is still looking good. So it's going to be interesting to see what gas prices do, oil prices. They are the talk of every politician right now. I know here in the state of Indiana, there's some talk about even reducing or suspending the Indiana gas tax, which I think if they do something like that, the businesses will probably just lower their costs to provide it back to you, the consumer. So it'll be real interesting to see how games are played in the commodity space. It's one that it's just a little bit more delicate than when we look at FANG stocks or S&P 500 stocks.
it is it's an exciting time. It's a challenging time. When you see the commodities going up, it also means you're probably grocery bills going up and a few other things. And I feel like I vowed to point out inflation every week to give credit to where it's due. So I found this recently. It's an old Keith Tyner business card. And on the back of it, I put 2 postage stamps, one from 1975 and the other to 1995, because one of the things our friends told us at training this week is if you are not 50 years old at this point, you've never lived through inflation. And so the idea of inflation to you is just oh, that's a bug, right? Like it's just something. But if you were around in the 1970s, you get a picture of it. So this first stamp here of the bicentennial era, looks like it was a picture of the state flag of Utah. What does it cost you to get a letter mailed from point A to point B in the United States? 13 cents. 20 years later, 1995, that same process of getting a stamp from point A to point B would cost you 32 cents, which is almost a triple in the cost in just 20 years. That's, I know somebody, my friend who got me to the church on time, I sent him something the other day and he said, who mails anything anymore? So that's just an example of inflation. And with inflation, you can give the Federal Reserve credit for that, for botching this thing up and not raising rates appropriately, and your local, state, local, and federal governments, and they all deserve credit. And I'll show you an example of why they get some of that credit. I'm going to share this picture. This is again from our friends at First Trust. I don't know, hopefully you can see this chart, but it shows all the way back to 1960. It shows government spending, GDP, gross domestic product growth, and S&P earnings growth. And the green line is government spending. And so the government is growing faster than the private sector. And unfortunately, that can't sustain indefinitely, because all the revenues that go to the government have to come from the private sector. And I got this second chart here. I thought I'd explain it to you. This is again from our friends at First Trust. In 1930, non-defense government spending was about 2.5% of the gross domestic product, GDP. That's profitability of the country and the businesses of it, 2.5%. So the businesses were paying 2.5% to keep the government functioning. Then from 1930 from 1980 to about 2010, this line right across here is about 17%. So imagine you were going hiking and you put a 2.5 pound brick in your backpack. You could probably carry that and not notice it too much, but these businesses, now they have to put a 17% or 17 pound weight in there, which definitely is going to slow you down a bit. And then we saw in the administrations between 2010 and now that they've seen that elevate up as high as to 27%, which would be like a 27 pound weight in the back of your backpack. So our government is not only creating some inflationary situations, but they're also making profits more challenging through a lot of their techniques. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and so the way out of this is the way out as it's always been, and it's innovation, it's leadership, it's doing things differently. It's people like you who are in business, taking risks and reinventing yourself, learning. And so that's the only way out of this. Back when the debt was paid, was that during the Clinton years?
Yeah.
I think we're the only country to have paid off our debt twice. And so that's how it will happen again, is leadership will reinvent themselves and create new products and new things. Looks like
I brought a product. I don't know if any of you ever had one of these guys before. I thought it was very innovative. This particular one was brand named by a little company called Radio Shack. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that, but there was a point at which Radio Shack had more stores than McDonald's had stores.
I didn't know that. That is just crazy.
And this is a compact disc cleaner. And before this, there was a cassette track cleaner, there was an 8-track tape cleaner, and I don't know what else cleaner there was, but whoever manufactured this, this was custom manufactured for Radio Shack, a division of the Tandy Corporation. They made some profits off of these, probably millions of dollars off of this. And I'm happy to let you come pick this up. I'm not going to send it to you, but if you need one of these, I've got it. But the reason I brought that to your attention, in 1977, there was a guy named Ken Olson. Do you know that name?
No.
He was the CEO of Digital Equipment Corporation. Do you know that company?
probably had a house in Naples for a little bit.
Might have been, I don't know. The Digital Equipment was one of the two major mainframe computer companies in the 70s and into the early 80s. Digital was right up there with IBM. And what Ken Olsen said was he declared he could see no possible reason to have a computer in your home.
Oh yeah, I've heard stuff like this, like
Yeah.
the Today Show when they interviewed it, what is a computer? Yeah.
Yeah, and so Ken Olsen was known, like IBM said, we're going to get them in your house, right? But
Yeah.
Digital Equipment. So what happened to Digital Equipment is eventually, because they couldn't see the vision of possibilities, they were acquired by a little Houston company called Compaq.
Okay.
And
They did pretty well.
did well for a while. Now their center down there is a church, I think, where they used to play the basketball games. And then Compaq was then, as it kind of unfolded, it was acquired by Hewlett Packard, who still exists. And I bet if we did a show in 10 years from now, we'll have an addition to who acquired Hewlett Packard, would be my prediction. Don't go buy Hewlett Packard or anything. That's just an observation. But technology, innovation, those things will be there. They will lead the way. And they will generally do it out of a time of desperation, frustration, and pessimism.
It's interesting, when my boys and I have gone over to the McDonald's, they love the McDonald's after a baseball game. We order from a touch screen. And I know we touched on this a few years ago, how robots are really changing the landscape. Artificial intelligence is changing the landscape on how things get done. And you think about in an inflation environment, the rising cost of wages. A rising cost of wages can go up, but if you have a robot doing it, you reduce that variable. And so that's one of the areas of innovation that folks like us are looking for, is we're looking for what are the cost improvement structures, and robots can be one of those. Robots are not necessarily a bad thing either, because there are people who have to create the robots. They've got to write the software. They've got to keep the robots running. And those are normally pretty great jobs.
Yeah, speaking of jobs, Jamie Dimon pointed out a couple of days ago, he's the CEO of JP Morgan. He pointed out that he saw I was trying to look for it here, I think a hurricane.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me about that yesterday, and there was a Christian author back in the 70s that was talking about the coming economic earthquake. So these kind of ideas are not new. So if you heard Jamie Dimon, it's not new. Elon Musk was concerned about the economy. He did a couple of things. He told his employees to come back to work, which might have offended some of the folks that are used to working from home. But he said, if you don't want to come back, don't come back. There's not a job here for you. And then in an internal memo, I think it was yesterday, he told his leadership team that he was concerned about the economy and that they need to let 10% of their team go. That's 100,000 employees in all his organizations. So the frustrations, anxieties, inflation, all these things that will lead to shrinking of profits for corporations force those leaders to make decisions. Their opinion doesn't drive the economy. It simply will affect people's opinions, maybe, but it doesn't mean that they're right.
And those types of releases may be exactly what you need. I was on the phone yesterday with a gal who helps us with compliance. She's awesome. She was an entrepreneur in 1983 with LPL Financial and did really well, rose to the top. And sometimes those layoffs happen in big companies, and it's a chance to reinvent yourself, to take courage and maybe start doing what you've always wanted to do, where you can say, yes, this is the type of person I want to work with, or no, I don't want any part of this situation. And so maybe some of those folks who are about to be laid off are going to be encouraged to see the door. It just might be what you need to reinvent yourself and take courage and do something new, to become one of the innovators.
And whether or not we go into a recession is not the end of the world. A recession is just a normal part of an economy breathing, and it's healthy. It gets excesses out of the economy. It puts the assets where they're most efficiently used. It does a lot of positive things. And if all you do is get your information from the news or your telephone or things, it may change your psyche. But some recessions are more intense than others, and some recessions are pretty quick. So it doesn't, just the word recession doesn't mean the world is coming to an end.
Yeah, it is so helpful to lean on other people's experiences and hear like what real life looks like instead of just what comes from the phone. I can be guilty of that too.
Yeah.
But you know, when you get out and learn from other people, you open up your worldview.
And really, like I said earlier, is a lot of businesses were created during down times or slow times in the economy, and it was because it forced people out of their comfort zones. And so when you're sitting there and you're not doing something that's comfortable, you start to maybe think better and think about things. And once you realize you survived being laid off or you survived a difficult time, you think, I can do this, it's going to be all right. And so that's where all the garage businesses, I think in the 70s and 80s came from, is from those type of folks. We'll just go build it in the garage and see what happens.
Hey, just one other shout out about change. It was, I went to the 500 last week. You went too. And something just really great observation from the 500 is maybe this hasn't changed since the 70s, is when the 500, at the 500, when they played taps, the whole place went quiet. And so that respect is still there. Mm. And I was really encouraged by that has gone through a few generations now. And some things do just keep going. And that's exciting to me. That's exciting to me for my kids. I brought my 11-year-old there. He got to see that, and maybe he continues that on. So we do pass on some really great things to one another. And so I just want to cheer you on if you're getting outside the phone and getting into some real experiences.
Yeah, change is a big deal, and independence is a big deal. In 1997, 25 years ago Monday, I walked away from a situation that was comfortable and went into the unknown and joined LPL Financial. And what an honor that was to join the LPL and to see the things that they were considering, the innovation that Todd Robinson was doing with LPL. Nobody was doing anything like LPL in a way that LPL was doing it. There were competitors to LPL then, but they set the standard. And Todd Robinson consistently trained his team to respond to you with always saying, thank you for your business, which was I think just a really cool way of doing business. And so we'll have completed 25 years with LPL on Monday. And as we look to the future, we're probably going to enter into some partnerships going into the weeks ahead that will put us in independence in a innovative way like we haven't really experienced recently. And so we're pretty excited about some of the changes, and you should be getting some more information about that from us real soon.
Yeah, I think what this means for you is just better visibility into what you have, and better technology to work with, and Gimbal picking up better customer service. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, great days ahead, and we'll look forward to talking to you more about that. Amanda, what do we need to know for the weekend?
Good weather. That's all. It looks awesome. We've got a great forecast ahead of us and a lot of relationship building and a lot of fun to be had. So get out there and enjoy it.
Are you doing anything outside interesting? Or
my whole life's outside and interesting. Yeah, I have no idea what adventures we're going to get into, but we'll be out there.
All right, I'm going to go watch some baseball this weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm not necessarily a baseball fan, but I'm a fan of the players, so it's going to be a good weekend.
Enjoy it.
I hope to see you guys soon.
We will.
And I hope you get to see us soon too.
See ya.